Right then, I'm excited, Kieran. Are you excited?
Very excited.
I'm very excited. So this is, as you can see, a bottle of Laphroaig, 10-year-old, which you can find in any supermarket, any duty-free in the world. However, this is a bottling from the 1970s. So Laphroaig distillery is on the island of Islay, which is off the west coast of Scotland. It's Prince Charles's favourite whiskey, but don't let that put you off. Laphroaig is famous for being very medicinal, smoky, peaty, iodine. Sounds disgusting, but they say they're the most flavourful whiskey in Scotland, and it's hard to argue with that.
I think it's a whiskey that's earned its reputation. You know, it's certainly a flavourful dram. So
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to getting into this one.
Yeah, a lot of Laphroaig's kind of marketing is kind of, I think they take a leaf of Marmite's book where they say you either love it or you hate it. I remember they did a campaign where they asked people to suggest tasting notes for Laphroaig.
Yeah.
And people would say it's like, having a cigarette while you brush your teeth, or it's like, was it French kissing a mermaid?
A mermaid,
that was
that one,
like
yeah.
Bizarre, but it makes you want to try it. This particular one is, I say, from the 1970s. On the label, we can see it has both imperial and metric measurements. So we've got 70 proof, which means it's around 40% ABV, and also 26 2/3 fluid ounces, which equates to 75.7 cl. So this label dates it from the kind of transition period between imperial and metric. So we say it's probably late 1970s, this particular one. In terms of its condition, obviously label's not perfect, but it's just a label. The important thing is the fill level, which we can see is right up into sort of low mid neck, which is a great sign for us because it shows there's not been any evaporation, there's not been any leakage. In theory, the liquid should be as spectacular today as it was when it was bottled in the 1970s. So yeah, Laphroaig's a real stunner of a whiskey, one of those drams that you can smell from the other side of the bar.
Yes, I've been on the receiving end of many dodgy looks, opening a bottle of Laphroaig in a bar, and everyone sort of turns around and goes,
is that Laphroaig?
What's that?
Yeah, exactly. It's so distinctive. As I say, it's not for everyone. Some people are obsessed with it, some people hate it. But I think that kind of adds to its appeal.
Yeah, it's part of its character in a way, isn't it? That sort of divisive nature.
Absolutely, definitely.
Which I'm actually impressed with this, even though this is from the 70s, it's still pretty much kept the sort of iconic look of the Laphroaig bottle you'll see nowadays. The sort of green bottle, white label, very clear text. 50 plus years on, they're still sort of hammering on with the sort of same design. So it'll be interesting to see if the whiskey holds up to that.
Absolutely. I would say that, as you say, the design is iconic. The look of it is iconic, and indeed the taste as well. I'd say the only kind of criticism of Laphroaig is that as years have gone by and the industry has become bigger, the emphasis on raw smokiness and intensity of flavour has maybe been pushed to the side. Whereas when this bottle was produced, that would have been a number one priority. So I'd say my expectations are sky high for this one. So yeah, let's open it up and see what's inside.
Lovely.
Right then, let's crack this open. There we go. I'm going to pour mine first because I cannot wait. There we go. Right then, Kieran. Shall we?
Yes.
Shall we? So in terms of colour, what would you say? Obviously, modern day Laphroaig 10, I think we're all fairly familiar with. You can get it in any bar, any shop in the world. Is it similar in colour, would you say? Is anything jumping out?
I would say so. Maybe it's like a tad darker than I would expect from like the modern day Laphroaig 10-year-old. But yeah, I think even the current Laphroaig, you do get a slight deep copper hue from it. So.
Very much so. Okay, we'll move on to the nosing, which is always an experience with Laphroaig. I think, for me, I don't want to say underwhelmed, but I was expecting to be slapped in the face with smoke.
Yeah, I wonder if it was power of suggestion, us just building up its divisive character a second ago. But yeah, I know what you mean. There's like a sort of a seaweediness to it.
Yeah, I think Laphroaig's, obviously we know it's smoky, but I think its distinctive smokiness is due to the amount of seaweed that you use to create the peat, which smokes the barley. It's not as like woody or heathery as some peaty, smoky whiskies you get. It is very kind of kelpy and quite kind of medicinal. People talk about, first aid kits and, all these sorts of like chemically smokiness to it.
Yeah, a lot of people sort of, when they have Laphroaig, throw out words like TCP and iodine and so on, but I'm not really getting much of that, at least from this expression.
Yeah, not here. So much on the nose, but if we move on to tasting, that might come through in abundance. So
cheers.
Cheers.
What are your initial thoughts on that one?
Similar to the nose, actually. I think I was expecting to be slapped in the face in the nose. Didn't happen. Expected on the palate. Still not really happened. There's hints of it. It's beautifully balanced and it's lovely to drink. You can just tell it's a wonderfully crafted malt.
Yeah.
But I think if I was looking for that raw Laphroaiginess, it's maybe not there in this one. What are your?
I'd probably agree with that. It doesn't live up to the hype that you'd maybe expect from Laphroaig, but you're right. It's a really nice example of an Islay whiskey. It doesn't have any of that sort of chemically taste. For me, an almost like smoky bacon kind of flavour. As soon as I took a sip, it made me think of like almost like a sweet barbecue kind of flavour coming through. Which
like the Frazzles, those crisps, bacon crisps. Frazzles.
I never thought a whiskey would take me back to my childhood.
Think of any bags of Frazzles you could buy for the cost of this. But no, as a dram, it's stunning and it's lovely, and I think your enjoyment of it is probably dictated by your expectations. I think on this occasion, my expectations were probably maybe too high or different. I was looking for something that it perhaps isn't. It reminds me of like 1960s Bowmore, and you think Bowmore is really smoky, blah blah blah, but there's so much other flavours to it, those tropical notes, and it's a similar experience with this one. The smokiness is there, and it's evident, and it's nice, but there's other stuff going on as well. But yeah, beautifully balanced, wonderfully composed. A lovely drop. What do you think? Enjoying it?
Yeah, very much so. I'd say it probably has lived up to my expectations in some way. I kind of expected it to be a bit like, just Laphroaig 10. I think there is no mistaking it really. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, a beautiful dram for sure.
Won't last long.
No, you're right.